Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here at the Ruttenberg Library. I wanted to welcome you to the channel this morning. It's been a little sporadic with videos, but I thought it was time to do a book haul. I have been collecting books over the last week, and last weekend we had a family outing, an overnight family outing, and as many of you know, my daughter is going to be graduating here in May, and we wanted to have, we've kind of got some ideas planned out for some different activities that will include the whole family before she goes off to college next fall. And so we did an overnight outing and went down to the Precious Moments Chapel and down in southern Missouri. And along the way, we did some shopping. And so, like I said, we got a bunch of books here. I'm going to try to go a little quicker because there's a bunch of them here. I guess before I do the book haul, we better do the mail haul. I was on Amazon, and there were some books I'd been wanting, and so I picked them up. The first one is Stephen Ambrose's, I believe his first book, Halleck, Lincoln's Chief of Staff. And this is, of course, a Civil War biography, and very happy to have it. I've got a whole lot of Stephen Ambrose's books. I've got, I think, the majority of them, and I don't have a couple of these early ones, and so I was looking forward to picking this one up. This, of course, is a reprint. It's from Louisiana State University Press out of Baton Rouge. The biography was originally done in 1962, and this reprint is from 1990, and just very happy to have that. I've been trying to read all of Ambrose's books, his nonfiction stuff, and very happy to add that to the collection. And the next one I got from Amazon, if you notice up on the shelf, I have got two of the three biographies on Theodore Roosevelt by Edmund Morris, and I'd been wanting to get that third one so that when I get to reading them, I could read them all. And so I picked up the one I was missing, Colonel Roosevelt. Pretty excited about that. It's the third in the trilogy, and it says on the back here, this is pretty quick, so I'll go ahead and read that one. This biography by Edmund Morris, the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award winning author of The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt and Theodore Rex, marks the completion of a trilogy, sure to stand as definitive. Of all our great presidents, Theodore Roosevelt is the only one whose greatness increased out of office. What other president has written 40 books, hunted lions, founded a third political party, survived an assassin's bullet, and explored an unknown river longer than the Rhine? Packed with more adventure, variety, drama, humor, and tragedy than a big novel, yet documented down to the smallest fact, this masterwork recounts the last decade of perhaps the most amazing life in American history. And so I'm really looking forward to this. I am thoroughly entertained by Theodore Roosevelt. Again, it says it reads like a novel, and that's exactly right. His life was jam-packed full of just adventures and misadventures and just all kinds of good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this. Edmund Morris, I've read some of his stuff before, and I really like his writing. So yeah, great addition to the collection. The next book in the stack is by Rick Atkinson. And so if you remember, a bit a little over a year ago, I read Rick Atkinson's first volume of the American Revolution trilogy, The British Are Coming. I really, really enjoyed it. And so very quickly, I went and found his first volume in his World War II trilogy. And like the Theodore Roosevelt trilogy, I wanted to have all the books. And so I went and found Volume 2 on Amazon, The Day of Battle, The War in Sicily and Italy, 1943 to 44. And so I really look forward to this. Rick Atkinson is such an excellent writer. When he puts the story of war, it feels like you're right there in the battle. He gives a lot of great detail. He keeps his story moving, and I know I really enjoyed the American Revolution, and of course this trilogy has gotten high praise. So I really look forward to that. I'd like to try to get into that this summer if I can, or maybe it might be next fall, but I'm going to be getting into it soon. The back of this one says, "An Army at Dawn." The winner of the Pulitzer Prize, Rick Atkinson, provided an authoritative history of the Allied triumph in North Africa during World War II. Now, in the day of battle, he follows the strengthening of American-British armies as they invade Sicily in July of 1943, and then mile by bloody mile fight their way north towards Rome. The decision to invade the so-called soft underbelly of Europe was controversial, but once underway, the commitment to liberate Italy from the Nazis never wavered. The battles of Salerno, Anzio, the Rapido River, and Monte Cassino were particularly lethal. Yet, as the months passed, the Allied forces continued to drive the Germans up the Italian peninsula, and with the liberation of Rome in June of 1944, ultimate victory at last began to seem inevitable. Drawing on a wide array of primary source material, written with great drama and flair, The Day of Battle is a masterly account of one of history's most compelling military campaigns. And so this will be good. I teach World War II, a lengthy World War II unit with my 7th grade, and this will just be good for my overall knowledge. I really like I said, Rick Atkinson's work. I think he's a great author. So that was the third book of my mail haul. I was really, really pleased with that, and I was not expecting to have a book haul very quickly afterwards. And so my wife, when we decided we were going to go ahead and do that overnight vacation, if you want to call it that, overnight daycation, whatever you want to call it, we ended up making a couple of stops, and made me very happy, made my vacation go really, really well. And so let me show you a couple of the things that we found. First, while they were shopping, we were at Target, and you know, what's a Target trip without some Hot Wheels? So I know it's not a book, but you gotta love that, folks. You gotta love it. Look at that Mustang, a 67 custom. You just gotta love that, and that'll go well with my Hot Wheels collection I got. It's been funny, my 6th graders in class, a couple days ago, one of them brought a whole handful of Hot Wheels to class. Now, I know that's not normal, but during the COVID time period, we have had at our school we have been in classes all year, and we've had a lot of success in that. You know, keeping everything clean and all of that, wearing masks, and well, part of that whole project is in the mornings, instead of the kids eating breakfast down in the cafeteria, they eat with their first hour class, and so they eat in our classrooms. And so I've had an additional 30 minutes with my first hour class, and it's been so much fun to get to know the kids, and you know, just the personal stuff. That is by far my most enjoyable, or one, not the most enjoyable, but you know, one of the most gratifying parts of teaching is getting to know the kids on a one-to-one level. I love my history stuff, and I love seeing light bulbs pop on, but when you can make that personal connection, it's fun. And so they've been eating breakfast and in our classrooms, and a couple mornings ago, one of them brought his pile of Hot Wheels, and he decided he was going to have an auction with his Hot Wheels. And so the other boys were coming up, and a couple of the girls were coming up, and they were looking at his Hot Wheels, and it was quite funny because, you know, he had one up to $5. I said, "You guys do realize you can get that brand new at the store for $1?" And his sales plummeted. And but anyway, they got to going back and forth, and then for the last couple of days, they've been bringing in their Hot Wheels and swapping and buying and stuff, and it's been kind of fun to listen to them and watch. And so you know, I've been telling them I just got my own Hot Wheel, you know, with my own collection. I've been telling them about my collection, and so it's been fun at school to get to you know, build that connection with the kids and let them know that I'm actually a human being. I don't just create assignments and grade assignments in my spare time. I actually have a life. And so anyway, I did that. We got that at Target. And then one of our stops on our little mini vacation was to, oh no, I went blank. What's the name of the store? That is funny. We went to Barnes and Noble. I'm sorry. Wow. I had Borders. I had everything but what I needed. Walden books. Yeah, everything but what I needed. We went to Barnes and Noble, and we like going there. I don't shop there a whole lot because a lot of it is at full price, and I just can't pay $35-$45 for a book. And so when we went there, we were doing it just to look around. Sometimes they're marked down racks. You know, sometimes you can find a deal, and boy, did we find some deals. They had a lot of stuff marked down, and my wife, she's the one who is always telling me I need to cull the herd, get rid of some books, and we have a everyday battle on that. And she comes up to me, we've been in there about 5 minutes, and she says, "Do you care if I buy a lot of books?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? Look at who you're talking to." And so it was funny. I'm going to share with you what she found and then what I found. And so if I haven't told you on the channel before, I think I have, but if I haven't, she absolutely loves F. Scott Fitzgerald and The Great Gatsby. It's one of her favorite stories, and so she found this book by F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's got This Side of Paradise, The Beautiful and Damned, and then 19 stories from the Flappers and Philosophers and the Tales of the Jazz Age. So it's a whole lot of short stories and then those 2 full novels. So it's a chunky monkey here. It's, let's see, it is 852 pages long. So this would be, this would classify for March of the Mammoths for my wife, but it comes from the Fall River Press out of New York, and this one was published in 2012. So she was really happy to get this book, and I was glad that she was able to partake in, a reading adventure with me. That's always fun. But really what caught our eye was when you went in the door of the store, they had all of these classics all marked down from, they're printed at $10, and they had them marked down to $5, so they were half off. And so she picked up a whole stack of these for my youngest daughter. She had her in mind, but she also picked up a couple for my oldest daughter. She picked up some for my mother-in-law, picked up some for my sister-in-law. So we walked out of there. This is probably the largest amount of money we've ever spent on books in one store at one time. And it was kind of fun. I don't like spending a ton of money, but it was kind of fun. So anyway, she got, and I'll just go through these real fast, these classics that she got. She got The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And these classics I've never read, so it's going to be a lot of fun because I'll be able to read these with my my 4-year-old as time goes. So then she got Grimm's Fairy Tales from the Brothers Grimm. Look at those covers. Isn't that sweet? It's got a little quote on the back of all of them. This one's Heidi by Johanna Spyri. Sorry if I'm butchering that. But beautiful, beautiful covers. My 4-year-old's been like carrying them all over the house. She's so excited. This is Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. Yeah, and these are recent prints, obviously. I guess I probably should have told you. 2015 is this one, and I'm guessing they're all about the same. And what's really cool about these is they've got, a copy of all the original pictures that were in them. So that makes them a little bit unique also. This is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. Again, beautiful, beautiful covers. And then they got The Little Mermaid and the Other Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. And look at that cover. Isn't that cool? And so they were like just tickled. Like I said, my 4-year-old was so excited. And then I picked this one up for me and my 4-year-old. My 4-year-old's like obsessed with pirates. She's got this cartoon that she watches on TV that what is his name? And now I'm going to go blank on his name. But is it Diego? Is that the pirate's name? Anyway, she's absolutely obsessed with it. And I saw this, Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I knew I had to have it because eventually she's going to be able to read this. And this is going to make for a really great, family daughter time. I'm going to love that. This is my 4-year-old's, and it was classic story Swan Lake. She loves that book, the cartoon variations of it, retold by Peter Clover, illustrated by Teresa Martinez, and so she was real excited about that. And let you see the pictures inside. So like, this is going to be a fun one for her. Her and my wife are going to love reading through that. So now let me get to the books that I bought. Okay, so I know you come here usually for history stuff, so let me get to that. I didn't mean to bother you with those. I just thought they were beautiful additions, and they're going to go nice in our family library. All right, so I left you off with Rick Atkinson's Volume 2. So when we went to Barnes & Noble, guess what I found marked down to $8 in hardback? The Guns at Last Light, The War in Western Europe, 1944 to 1945. This is Volume 3 of the trilogy by Rick Atkinson. And as I said, this is a hardback. And I got it for about the same price as what I got the used book that was not in perfect condition in paperback. Same price. And so this was awesome. Look at the end papers on that. You got some beautiful maps in there. So this is going to be great. This book is in awesome condition. There's no remainder marks. It is originally a $40 book. So like I said, I can't shop for stuff that's at $45 a book. But this one was marked down to $8. Super excited about that. It is from Henry Holt and Company, and 2013 is the date. And it says, the magnificent conclusion to Rick Atkinson's acclaimed liberation trilogy about the Allied triumph in Europe during World War II. It is the 20th century's unrivaled epic. At a staggering price, the United States and its Western allies vanquished Hitler in the liberated Europe. In the first 2 volumes of his best-selling Liberation trilogy, Rick Atkinson recounted how the American-led coalition fought through North Africa and Italy to the threshold of victory. And now he tells the most dramatic story of all, the Titanic battle for Western Europe. D-Day marked the commencement of the European War's final campaign, and Atkinson's riveting account of that bold gamble sets the pace for the masterly narrative that follows. The brutal fight in Normandy, the liberation of Paris, the disaster that was Market Garden, the horrific Battle of the Bulge, and finally the thrust to the heart of the Third Reich. All these historic events and more come alive with a wealth of new material and mesmerizing cast of characters. Excuse me. Atkinson tells the tale from the perspective of participants at every level, from presidents and generals to war-weary lieutenants and terrified teenage riflemen. When Germany at last surrenders, we understand anew both the devastating cost of this global conflagration and the enormous effort required to win an Allied victory. With the stirring final volume of this monumental trilogy, Atkinson's accomplishment is manifest. He has produced the definitive chronicle of the war that unshackled a continent and preserved freedom in the West. And so super excited, like I said, to have this. This is going to be wonderful. He's always very thorough with his stuff. And again, great price for a hardback book. One of the books I was real excited to get, this is another $8 one. So let's see, last year, and I don't remember exactly what time, there was a readathon done for the Count of Monte Cristo. And I really wanted to join it. But when it was introduced, I noticed that the book was really, really thick. And see, I had read The Count of Monte Cristo before, or so I thought. And the version that I read, it was about the time the movie, that most recent movie came out, it was only about this thick. And I loved the story. I did not realize at the time that was an abridged version. And so when that readathon went on last year, I really wanted to join it, but when I realized that I did not have the right book, that was kind of disappointing. But my disappointment turned to joy when I was at Barnes & Noble, because look what I found. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. And it is a thick book. But I am super, super excited to get this. This is going to take me forever to read, but it will be fun. It is 1,065 pages. 1,065. So you talk about stories that just take forever. This would be one. And it's from, this printing is from Fall River Press out of New York, and it was printed in, let's see here, 2016. And so if you're not familiar with this story, I'll read the inside flap for you. It says, the future could hardly look brighter for Edmond Dantes. Only 19 years old, but already an experienced seaman, he is about to be named captain of the merchant vessel Farron. His deep and passionate love for the beautiful Mercedes is returned in every respect. They will be married in a few short weeks. Everyone who knows this handsome, modest young man wishes him the best. That is, almost everyone. Edmund is unaware that 3 men he knows well envy him and are conspiring to ruin him. The joy of Edmund and Mercedes' betrothal dinner is shattered when soldiers march in and arrest Edmund as a Bonapartist traitor. Thrown into prison without a trial and with no hope of release, Edmund receives unexpected help from a fellow prisoner in discovering the identities of those who have wronged him. He spends long hours imagining how to punish them, should he ever escape. If revenge is a dish best served cold, Edmond Dantes is learning to be a very patient and ruthless chef. Set in the years following the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, the Count of Monte Cristo held Europe in thrall when it was first serialized in 1844. It has endured for more than a century as a classic tale of personal honor and revenge. I am so excited to dip into this. I don't know when I'll be able to, but I am excited. I loved the story when I first read it, the abridged version anyway. I love the movie that came out, and now I'll get to read the original. So I'm pretty excited about that. Another book I picked up off of that discount rack was a presidential biography, President McKinley, Architect of the American Century by Robert W. Mary. Again, another $8 book. A little bit more than I usually spend, but it's a hardback, brand new condition. And super excited to have this. I don't recall having anything on McKinley, so this might be my first biography on McKinley. I hadn't looked to make sure, but I think it is the first. Excuse me. So this comes from Simon & Schuster out of New York, and it is a 2017 book, so it is fairly new. It says, lively, definitive, eye-opening, President McKinley, by acclaimed historian Robert W. Mary, brilliantly evokes the life and presidency of William McKinley, cut short by an assassin, most often lost in the shadow of his brilliant and flamboyant successor, T.R. The 25th president is presented by Mary as a transformative figure, the first modern Republican. It was President McKinley who established the United States as an imperial power. In the Spanish-American War, he kicked Spain out of the Caribbean. In the Pacific, he acquired Hawaii and the Philippines through war and diplomacy. He took the country to a strict gold standard. He developed the doctrine of fair trade, and he forced the open door to China. He forged the special relationship with Great Britain. McKinley established the non-colonial imperialism that took America global. He set the stage for the bold leadership of Theodore Roosevelt, who built on his accomplishments. President McKinley brings to life a sympathetic man and an often overlooked president. Mary raises his rank to a chief executive of consequence who paved the way for the American century. And so this is going to be great. I'm super excited on this. I don't know a lot other than what I've read in Theodore Roosevelt biographies, so this should give me a whole different perspective. So really pumped up for that one. What would a book haul be without some baseball? So now I'm switching to the books that I got at Books Revisited. And we did this one on the way south towards Kansas City. So it actually would have been before Barnes & Noble. But I didn't feel like rearranging my stack. So I don't have them in chronological order. But that's okay. That's all right. But anyway, these next few books are from Books Revisited. So the baseball book, the baseball biography that I picked up was The Last Boy, Mickey Mantle and the End of America's Childhood, by Jane Levy. And I paid up a little bit for this one, paid $4 instead of $2 like you normally do at Books Revisited. I like Books Revisited because paperbacks are $1, hardbacks are $2 typically. Occasionally they'll have, a couple books marked up, but that's okay. This is going to be a fine read. I love baseball, and of course Mickey Mantle was during the the golden age of baseball, the 50s, 60s, when it was really coming into its heyday. This is a HarperCollins Publishers, and 2010 is the date on it. Excuse me. So everybody familiar with Mickey Mantle, New York Yankees. So let's go ahead and read the inside cover here. Jane Levy, the acclaimed author of the New York Times bestseller Sandy Koufax, A Lefty's Legacy, returns with a biography of an American original, number 7, Mickey Mantle. And I would love to have that Sandy Koufax biography. That would be good too. Anyway, drawing on more than 500 interviews with friends and family, teammates, and opponents, she delivers the definitive account of Mantle's life, mining the mythology of the Mick for the true story of a luminous and illustrious talent with an achingly damaged soul. Meticulously reported and elegantly written, The Last Boy is a baseball tapestry that weaves together episodes from the author's weekend with the Mick in Atlantic City, where she interviewed her hero in 1983. After he was banned from baseball, with reminiscences from friends and family of the boy from Commerce, Oklahoma, who would lead the Yankees to 7 world championships, be voted American League's most valuable player 3 times, and win the Triple Crown in 1956, and duel teammate Roger Maris for Babe Ruth's home run crown in the summer of 1961, the same boy who would never grow up. As she did so memorably in her biography of Sandy Koufax, Jane Levy transcends the hyperbole of hero worship to reveal the man behind the coast-to-coast smile who grappled with the wrenching childhood, crippling injuries, and the genetic predisposition to alcoholism. In The Last Boy, she chronicles her search to find out more about the person he was, and given what she discovers, to explain the mystifying hold on a generation of baseball fans who were seduced by that lopsided, gaff-toothed grin. It is an uncommon biography with literary overtones, not only a portrait of an icon, but an investigation of memory itself. How long was the tape measure home run? Did Mickey Mantle, or did Mantle swing the same way right-handed and left-handed? What really happened to his knee in the 51 World Series? And what happened to the red-haired, freckle-faced boy known back home as Mickey Charles? I believe in memory, not memorabilia, Levy writes in her preface, but in The Last Boy she discovers that what we remember of our heroes, and even what they remember of themselves, is only where the story begins. And so, that's going to be fabulous. Like I said, I absolutely love baseball biographies, and so that'll be right up my alley. The next biography that we look at is from world history. I found a biography on Gandhi, Mohandas Gandhi, and I actually found this one last time I went, and I chose, there was two biographies on him. One was in brand new condition, and this is the older version, and the brand new one's the one I picked up the first time, thought I probably ought to do that. And then this was still there, so I went ahead and bought it. And this is The Life and Death of Mahatma Gandhi by Robert Payne. And of course, Robert Payne's got a lot of biographies that he has written. And so I trust him. And yeah, I'm just super excited to have this. I'm not going to read that whole flap, but everybody understands that Gandhi was extremely important in India gaining its independence. He was, you know, the teacher. He probably didn't understand it at the time. He didn't know, but he becomes the teacher of, you know, Martin Luther King Jr., who mimics his peaceful demonstrations. And so that'll be really good to have, because I know I teach that in class. Matter of fact, that'll be coming up in the next week or two, talking about Gandhi. So moving on to the next book, and this was an exciting find also. This is by Jim Bishop, The Day Kennedy Was Shot, an uncensored minute-by-minute account of the November 22nd, 1963. And so real excited to have this. I've read Jim Bishop's one on the day Lincoln was shot, and I think I've mentioned that before. I absolutely love that book, and I know many of you have asked me, do you have this one? And I was like, no, I don't have it. I'm always on the lookout for it. I know Todd offered to send it to me. Oh, it's probably a year ago. He had offered to send it to me, and I said, no, don't worry about it. And now I have one of my own. So I'm real happy to add that to the collection. And of course, this is like a minute-by-minute take of what happened that day that Kennedy was shot. It takes you through the assassination, or at least I'm guessing anyway. I'm guessing it's probably set up like the Lincoln one. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be good. Next book in the stack is actually fiction, but it's by a author that I thoroughly enjoyed reading the first time that I read him. This is David Nevin, and the book is 1812, a novel. And I found this. It's a hardback. It's not in the greatest of shape. The inside, the spine's kind of beat up when you open it up. It's busted in places, but it'll be good for a first read. I read, what was the name of the other one? See if I can find it here. Was it Dream West? That doesn't sound right. I read another book by him that was really good, and I apologize for not remembering the name of it right off the top of my head, but I read another one by him that I thought, man, I need to get the rest of his stuff, and I finally found one. I had not found one up until this point, so I'm real excited to pick that up. I might even do a reread on the other book that I have of his. The next one in the stack is a James Michener, and this one will be, it's called Legacy, a novel, and this is going to replace my paperback copy. This is a hardback, excellent condition. It's almost brand new condition, especially for the age that it is in. Great, great book. It's one of the only short books by Michener. Michener's well known for his, 800, 900 page books. And this one is not. It's from Random House out of New York. It's a 1987 book. I loved it the first time I read it. So let me read it, the flap to you. So in the year of his 80th birthday and 200th anniversary of our Constitution, James Michener contributes a short novel of great impact. Major Norman Starr, attached to the National Security Council's, told that he will shortly be called before a congressional committee. Through a tense, reflective weekend, the author talks over the situation with his wife and a streetwise Washington lawyer and begins to think back to the long line of Americans from whom he is descended. One was a Supreme Court justice, another figured importantly in the unofficial nightly debates about drafting a new document to unify and help guide the affairs of the young United States. Another was an unlikely but courageous and effective suffragist. One by one, these and others parade through the officer's mind, the soldier, The Roosevelt Hater, The Slave Owner. Legacy is a novel as timely as today and as timeless as Truth and Justice. Its biographical portraits an eloquent lesson in American history. Here, a powerful story that can be read in an evening and remembered for a lifetime. James Michener demonstrates once more why he has become one of the most widely read and respected American writers. The author of much-loved stories on the world's cultures and peoples, from Tales of the South Pacific to Texas and the forthcoming Alaska, Mr. Michener and his wife Mary currently reside in Coral Gables, Florida, where he is a distinguished visiting professor at the University of Miami. So I really look forward to rereading this one. It's good. End papers are kind of cool. Got some Constitution action there. We the people. The most important part of our democracy is remembering we the people. So very excited to get a replacement copy. The next one in the stack is from Irwin Ross, and it's The Loneliest Campaign, The Truman Victory of 1948. Says The Loneliest Campaign is a first-rate account of the most dramatic presidential election of the century. It's not only vivid and readable, it is also valuable contribution to history. And that little blurb came from Arthur Schlesinger Jr. And so I'm very happy to have this. When I first taught high school history, I had a recent American history class, and we always talked about this campaign, and showing there's a picture of him holding up the Dewey Defeats Truman, very famous picture. And it's going to go, this book will go through that whistle stop campaign that he did. This is from the New American Library, and it's from 1968. So it's got a little bit of age to it, but I'm still looking forward to it. It says, as Election Day in 1948 approached, political pollsters, pundits, and pros united in predicting the presidency for Thomas E. Dewey. Only the incumbent president and underdog candidate Harry S. Truman seemed seriously to disagree with this consensus. Only Truman, and as it turned out, the American electorate. This is the full story of the most dramatic upset in modern American political history, a campaign and an election that has shaped our political life to this day. The story this book tells is one of the high-level calculation and miscalculation. On the Democratic side, it gives an incisive account of the strategy that enabled Truman to overcome the loss of 4 of the largest industrial states, the defection of Wallace supporters and the Dixiecrats, and the seemingly invincible momentum of the Dewey bandwagon. On the Republican side, it traces Dewey's rocky road to the nomination and the campaign tactics by which he ultimately succeeded in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Here, too, is the story of the rise and fall of Henry Wallace and his Progressive Party in one of the famous Dixiecrat revolts. Giving wonderfully vivid profiles of the personalities involved, the author has memorably recreated the campaign, its immediate historical background, and its major issues and minor causes celebrates the course it took from the first primaries to the final outcome. Although one knows the results in advance, a sense of growing suspense dominates the narrative, right up to the stunned surprise that swept the country when the final returns came in. Mr. Ross analyzes the reasons for the colossal misreading of the temper of the American people. Drawing on recent original research, he demonstrates the profound influence of the election has had upon both the Democratic and Republican parties. This is a definitive book on the great turnabout of 1948, an unsurpassed portrayal of how American politics works and how unpredictable the American voter can be. And so real excited about that. And I just remember when I used to teach that in my high school class, we'd always talk about Harry Truman went to bed and didn't even know how things were going to go. Him and his wife went to bed, and it was what it was, and he was hoping for the best and ready for the worst. And so, of course, the next morning he's waking up to victory. So anyway, last book that I got at Books Revisited, and this was only for $1. I thought it's a really slim volume, but it's Crisis of Empire, Great Britain and the American Colonies, 1754 to 1783 by I.R. Christie, from the Foundations of Modern History series. Real excited about that. I've seen this in bibliographies quite a bit, and I've never seen a copy of it, so it was nice to have this come to the shelves. This is from W.W. Norton and Company out of New York, and it is a 1966 book, so it's in wonderful shape for being 1966. So I'll read the back cover to you, and then we'll wrap up this book haul. So, Foundations of Modern History series. This series of short historical studies has its main theme, successive phases in the evolution of modern history from Renaissance times to the present day. Its general purpose is to provide, within a limited compass and at a reasonable cost, scholarly surveys of some of the fundamental developments which have influenced the civilization and conditioned the outlook of modern world. A further aim of the series is to illustrate how not only the general direction of recent historical inquiry, but also its very content and its relations with other disciplines have been progressively modified. All right, so this next little part is with this book in particular. So the Crisis of Empire. By the 18th century, there were signs of strain in the relationship between Great Britain and the American colonies. No longer mere offshoots of the English community, the colonies had become powerful enough to demand a voice in the control of their destiny. It was a demand that inevitably clashed with the British concept of empire. As Mr. Christie writes, how the colonial claims were to be reconciled with the concept of imperial unity was beyond the imagination of most men in the 18th century. When both sides stuck obstinately to their principles, a collision followed. He makes clear the failure of the British politicians to understand the temper of the colonies, newly aware of their strength, but he distinguishes between the ministry of George Grenville, which merely misjudged the American circumstances, and the Townshend ministry, which wantonly ignored them. And he shows that at the root of the conflict were fears, genuine yet unfounded, on both sides. The colonists, convinced the British measures would reduce them to the status of slaves, and the British certain that the secession of American colonies would lead to the loss of great power status. And so that'll be a nice addition to the revolutionary time period, that part of my library. Looking forward to reading that. Shouldn't take very long. It's only 120 pages, including the bibliography index, so that should fly. And this is the last book of the haul right here. My wife actually got this one last night at Dollar Tree, obviously for $1, and it was We Were Strangers Once by Betsy Carter, and she thought it sounded good, and so she took a chance for all of our family, me, my wife, and my daughter, to read this. She thinks we might like it. And so let me read this cover, and then we will be done with the book haul. So in this story, it says, where do you find home? In a future full of strangers? On the eve of World War II, Egon Schneider, a gallant and successful Jewish doctor, son of two world-famous naturalists, escapes his beloved Germany to an uncertain future across the sea. Settling into the rhythms of Upper Manhattan's Washington Heights neighborhood, Egan seeks solace within a circle of eccentric fellow immigrants who are at once bound by and set adrift from their own complicated pasts. But despite the many promises of Franklin D. Roosevelt's dawning American dream, carving out a new life proves harder than it seems. Even for the canniest newcomers, Egan's closest friend, the acerbic best-selling author Meyer Levitt, has been reduced to wearing a sandwich board on a New York street corner. Headstrong Katrina Hardy, the daughter of a dirt-poor Irish trolley driver, finds herself entangled in the Harlem underworld, negotiating heartbreak and loss as she forges an unlikely alliance to save herself and those she loves. Even Egan, denied the right to practice medicine in his adoptive country, must instead accept the label of cheeseman at the local grocery store, coming home each night to the faithful dog while searching for love and a greater meaning in New York's darkest corners. Yet these are tenacious men and women, united as much by their differences as by their memories of the world they left behind. And when their little group is faced with an existential threat, the strangers rise up together and discover what makes community truly a home. Written in her trademark gorgeous prose, full of heart, wit, tears, and joy, Betsy Carter's indelible novel about friendship, love, and redemption will resonate with anyone who ever felt adrift and longed for what has been left behind. All right, and so that sounds like it'll be a fun novel to read. BookTube, I hope you like this selection of books. If you've read any of them, you want to leave a comment, please feel free to leave comments. Wanted to remember to thank all the new subscribers. I really appreciate that. I hope this is something that you're liking. And yeah, until next time, BookTube, thank you for watching and happy reading.